Welcome to TruthStream. I'm Scott and this is Joe, and we've got a heck of a show coming up for you. We're here with David from Digital Outlook channel and Shane Lott from the member of the collective. And I believe Shane has a clip that will introduce the topic for this evening.
Certainly have.
Let her rip, Shane.
Holy hot dogs, the spectacular collapse of one of the world's largest crypto exchanges is being called bigger than Enron, potentially ruining the lives of millions of people. Founder Sam Bankman-Fried, oh good, he's just nasty. He and such an asshat super douche. Huge Democrat donor, reportedly holed up in the Bahamas. Lawmakers set to drag him in front of Congress next month to explain how his company lost billions of dollars. And now a bunch of high-profile celebs, including handsome Tom Brady, Shaquille O'Neal, Larry David. They're all included in an $11 billion class action lawsuit for promoting the failed platform in primetime commercials. Earlier this year, Bankman-Fried spoke to her own Liz Clayman about regulations that may have prevented his company's collapse. And he was all for the regulations. What a tool. Watch.
What do you anticipate will happen?
I'm optimistic that over the next year or so, we'll see some really substantial steps forward in the global regulatory environment and the U.S. regulatory environment for cryptocurrencies.
Gosh, I wonder why he was donating to the party in power. That's so weird. Maybe so he'd have a bunch of friends in office when he got in trouble. Oh, I think a regulatory environment. Eat sand, jerk. So how did this guy swindle so many people out of so much worth? Joining me now, Chief Bitcoin Historian at CoinGeek, Kurt Wuckert Jr. is in the house. So Kurt, how did this happen?
Well, unfortunately, Kennedy, it's a symptom of a whole lot of things. I think this actually started a few months back when the 3AC company collapsed. We've seen Celsius collapse, and now FTX is the biggest domino to fall. But I think the real problem is that they're keeping money on each other's exchanges, and everybody's promising each other 10%, 15% yields on holding stable coins. And I think they're playing a lot of really crazy games. And I actually think the worst of this news probably hasn't come out yet.
Oh, like what? Tell me everything. What do you know? What do you think you know?
Well, just based on all the players, some of the other people that are in the Bahamas, there's Deltec Bank, there's Tether Corporation, really the largest liquidity in the entire crypto economy are all tangled up here. Sam is not an anomaly. Sam ran the #2 liquidity exchange on Earth. And Binance took them down, but a lot of people don't realize Binance also has gone offline a couple of times. When 3AC collapsed, Binance went down. Just today, we saw Gemini's Earn platform, as well as Genesis Trading, which is the largest lender in the space. Genesis is one of those companies behind all the other companies. Do the same thing. They're saying, "Hey, we're going to take a little pause here," and that's really concerning.
So what happens to these people who were at least theoretical billionaires for a while, including Sam, including CZ, including the Winklevi? What happens to their net worth? Does it evaporate? Were they somehow insulated? Did they insulate each other secretly while grifting, millions and billions of dollars from investors?
It's possible. We think they're billionaires, but they're paper billionaires. We don't know that they ever actually had those billions of dollars in the first place. They were largely printing tokens out of thin air. Like the collapse at FTX came from the collapse of the FTT token.
Yes.
So this was money that they printed out of nowhere, and then it wasn't worth anything. That really shouldn't shock anybody.
So do you think when Sam was appealing to CZ at Binance, do you think he really thought that other guy was going to help him? Because he really just kind of turfed him the second he got a chance.
It's hard to know. CZ has a little bit of that.
Oh my gosh,
vibe.
I can't listen to any more of this blithering idiot.
That's okay.
Yeah, can I comment on that? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So basically, what this guy is coming out on this show and doing, and I understand the setup here, because it makes it look like, hey, look, this little, dweeb, Sam Bankman-Fried, he really duped us all. He really hosed us all. But, we're seeing this all over the place. And this is the whole strategic agenda from the the old school and these major brokerage houses that are trying to, drive and herd this space into their traditional rails. So the narrative that's coming out here, and you can basically hear what this guy's saying is, hey, all centralized crypto exchanges or digital asset exchanges, you really don't know what you're dealing with there. You don't know if you can genuinely trust them. Well, I can guarantee you that the traditional rails, the BlackRocks, the JP Morgan Chases, the Goldman Sachs, look, these guys as big institutional investors are heavy into this space. And the one thing that they want to do is they want to crush the level of independence and liberty that a lot of these crypto exchanges represent for many digital asset investors. Let me explain to you a little bit how. Right now, when you want to buy a security, you have to go through a broker, and that broker then makes that trade for you, and you pay a brokerage fee for doing that. So you don't interact with the exchange, your broker does. Then on top of that, what happens with the asset after you've bought it? Do you get something mailed to you in the mail? Do you get a stock certificate or anything? No, what happens is that stock certificate itself gets custodied on your behalf. Now, the thing that is unique about digital assets that no other asset class has is this: you have direct custody and ownership vis-a-vis of your private keys. Now, with traditional things, those assets can be seized. Now, a lot of regular rank and file people do not use legal structures in a way that insulates them from liability, however it comes. But when you're talking about your high net worth individuals, anyone over $5 million now, we're getting into a different space, the whole accredited investor space. Well, they do use legal structures that insulates them. Let me give you an example of that. If your son, who delinquent Sonny Boy over here, he goes and takes your BMW, gets smashed on Friday night, and decides to drive home, and instead of driving into the garage, he drives into your next door neighbor's front room window. Well, if you're not insulated and you get sued, you don't just stop at the insurance. They take your house, they take your this, they take all of it, right? Well, with legal structures and the high net worth individuals that a lot of these big corporate, monsters, when you talk about BlackRock, trillions and trillions of dollars of assets under management, and JP Morgan Chase and, Goldman Sachs, their clients, these guys utilize legal structure so that the most you'll ever get is the insurance, if you get that. So what's being attacked here in reality is the rank and file's ability to go out there and purchase their own digital assets, their own investments, and to custody them themselves. And you are going to see the knee-jerk reaction of all kinds of regulation flow out of the mouths of these legislators that basically, as far as you can tell, it is absolutely amazing. The level of conflict of interest that is in this situation with XTX. And now you got this news article, and this guy is coming on there, and he's basically singing the song of, oh, how dangerous this is. And that's why we've got to come in there and rescue you guys from it and save you. When in fact, FTX, from what I can gather and the review that I've done, it certainly looks like it was established with strategic precision, in my view, to attack this very space that we so much enjoy. And I can show you later on in our discussion why I believe that, but that's what I genuinely feel is coming out of this narrative right here.
Well, and those, I'm looking back now and seeing that Larry David ad, those were during the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, huge eyes. So that I see it a lot more clearly now that I didn't dig into this, but I never, I know where I go for my digital assets. It certainly wouldn't be something on an ad like that. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out for the viewers that was the part of the
Yeah, let alone it just being a hot wallet or a hot exchange. Your cash goes in and it sits there. You don't have control over what they do with it. Mm-hmm. So right. In doing a breakdown, and Dave will step in here at any point in time on the floated structure that they gave us as at 17th of November this year, which is how long ago?
3 days.
You know,
Yeah, it's
they,
not too long ago. Yeah.
yeah,
2 days,
they
yeah.
even state that their percentages directly held by each Sam Bankman, Gary Wang, and Nishad Singh in their individual entities varies. So it's a big flashy diagram with doesn't tell you anything.
Well, what it really is saying here, I mean, look at this network and the infrastructure of this organization, right? And so what you're seeing here is the corporate veil. Okay, so you have SBF at the top, you have Gary Wang, and you have Nishad Singh, and look at the various legal entities here. So you got West Realmshires Inc., Alameda Research LLC, Clifton Bay Investments LLC, FTX Trading Limited, What you're looking at here is a very elaborate, structure to kind of like make it very difficult for the average individual to really understand what lever is being pulled and by whom and at what time. And you also have to remember something else. To come onto this space and to open up an exchange to the degree that FTX was and to attract the kind of investment that it did would take a significant amount of, capital. We're not talking about just a couple to 3 million. I think SBF could have potentially raised that, maybe even through family and friends, just a few $1,000,000. But you are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in order to go out there and generate this kind of attraction, and to put yourself in front of a lot of these venture capitalist firms that come in and they say, oh yeah, I want a piece of that. Well, how do you sell that narrative? If you're just a real low small fry, you don't. How could you even compete against the Krakens, the Coinbases, the Binances, and the big major digital assets exchanges that were out there? Remember, SBF comes on the scene in 2019, almost out of nowhere. And you try and ask this guy, or you try to nail him down to kind of say, oh, well, where is your backing coming from, or your liquidity coming from? He has zero answers for that, and actually starts sounding like he knows literally diddly squat about all this in digital asset space and really understanding the infrastructure of decentralized finance. You ask them to truly explain in detail what a distributed ledger technology blockchain base is, or is it a direct acyclic gag, or a DAG? What is he kind of like his knowledge base? He literally in the interviews, he comes off as, almost like a self-entitled individual that has really no understanding whatsoever. But, you've got to believe me. And remember when he was sitting before Congress, this guy, the level of arrogance, he was absolutely convinced of his own importance. And you have to wonder who is behind him, feeding him that kind of narrative that he could never fail, nor could he ever face real consequences. And yet, when this whole chain of events started to unravel and unfold, and it started with relationship breakdown, which I can go into a bit, but when that all started to unfold, what ends up happening? This guy comes off and says, well, I just didn't know. And, oh, well, I'm so sorry. Come on. You've got to be kidding me. This guy was responsible for what? Billions and billions of dollars. And it wasn't just FTT, by the way. Remember, we've got the likes of Kevin O'Leary and other multi-billionaires investing into this space with this guy. So somewhere along the line, there were some significant amounts of money and liquidity passing through this FTX exchange. And the way I kind of look at it, when you start peeling back the onion and you start going through the history, and you realize that, this guy, here he is, a student of MIT. Well, his mother and his father, right, are both, professors at MIT and worked with Gary Gensler. Now, my guess is Gary Gensler knew Sam Bankman-Fried. Then on top of that, you have this whole, due diligence issue with the SEC. You're talking the Security and Exchange Commissions. There are divisions in the SEC that are primarily designated to acquire intelligence. with respect to foreign investment in the United States to ensure that the economic system in the US is protected and that investors are protected. But what did you see happening here? What you saw happening here is this SBF gets a front row seat with Mr. Gensler over here, who probably knew, now I don't know this for a fact, but he certainly knew his parents. So my guess is he probably knew, maybe at a Christmas party, who knows what, has met up with SBF at some point. Now, I would guess that because of the intimate acquaintance that Gary Gensler had with his mom and dad, he would know, hey, look, these guys aren't worth billions of dollars. Where did they get the money? I mean, any analytical thinking mind is going to present questions, right? So then we have all of this intertwangled type of interaction between FTX, the Ukrainian government, and the US government. So basically, and this is legitimate. This is not FUD, not fear uncertainty. It's not speculation. What really went on here is we know for an absolute fact that the US government sent over billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine. And it was sent over there for, of course, military infrastructure. It was sent there for logistics supply, so food, healthcare, and the like. However, we know that Ukraine has come out and said, oh, well, we invested a good percentage of that into FTX, surprisingly enough. Then you got Sam Bankman-Fried doling out tens of millions of dollars in donations to the Democratic Party with, you know, a nominal amount going to some Republican candidates, of course. Now, there is supposed to be this line in the sand in any government interaction, and it is supposed to follow, look, you're not supposed to have any, even the appearance of conflict of interest is not supposed to be there. It is just, the questions this is raising is truly monumental. And I think as we peel back this onion and we find out more and more of this, I mean, some of these questions deserve answers. And look, they took Bernie Madoff and they put him behind bars for way less than what this young man has done. And so where is the outcry to go out and get Interpol to bring this guy back, him and Caroline Ellison, bring them both back to face the music and to start ponying up who were the people that financed this thing in the very beginning in the first place. Now, yeah, I believe there were a lot of other shady deals going on there. I think that SBF is going to come out that FTX was involved in the Celsius and the Voyager debacle. And it wouldn't surprise me one iota if it's determined that FTX was fooling around in the Terra Luna space, literally causing that whole thing to wind down. And how this house of cards came down is because of an infight between CZ over at Binance and SBF here. And CZ, remember, was one of the early investors in FTX that got out and was given a position. Well, he was given a bunch of FTT to go with that. His decision was, when things weren't being played right, he kind of knew what was going on. He says, I'm going to pull the pin on you. And he throws out in the marketplace, hey, I'm going to start liquidating all our FTT positions. And it was to the tune of what? 560 million. Does that number sound familiar? Because it wasn't too many months before that Binance suffered a hack, and how much BNB was taken? About 560 million. You just connect the dots and you start seeing what's going on here. So what did they do? They throw that out there, and CZ literally put out a tweet. Well, if you want to buy my FTT back, buy it back for the 560 million. The whole house of cards came crashing down. Now you see all the rats running for cover, everyone backpedaling and all this kind of stuff. But I think there was some strategy involved. And I do believe that because of the tentacles that have reached out in this whole space, it's my supposition, you know, and this is going back to my own investigative background, working as a federal officer for the government of Canada, investigating underground economy, aggressive tax planning, and all of that, and having that investigator's mind at a senior level officer's position for over 25 years. If I was investigating this case, I would be following these breadcrumbs, and these questions would be coming up. I'd be connecting some serious dots. And I'll tell you what, the way that it looks right now, it does not look good. It looks to me like there was strategic issues afoot, and especially when you look at the corporate veil and what you're seeing there. When you look at that org chart there, you're seeing the corporate veil flown right before your very eyes. And those that have the recognition to see it could identify what's going on here. So what they do is they create infrastructures like this so that, you know, it just muddies the water and takes so much effort and time to get into that. So take a look at Alameda Research. Look underneath that. You got all these different inks group. You got Verdant Canyon LLC, Alameda Research KX, North Wireless Dimension. Look at all these legal structures, one upon the other, upon the other, upon the other, basically just making it so convoluted that in order to investigate this, you are going to have to unravel one knotted up ball of string. It will take some time, but do they have the resolve to invest what's necessary in finding it out? Now, that's where your politicians are going to really show their true colors. And my guess is this: look, if I received that kind of donations knowing that it was money, and I know I'm kind of rattling on here, but this has got right under my skin. But, you know, when I look at that and I know that, hey, look, you know, when we're dealing with, you know, these donations, who is going to be the first ones that are going to stand up and say, you know what? I know that this money was ill-gotten gain. I know it came from regular folks that were investing in this space that got ripped off. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to return it. I'm going to get it out of my campaign and repay it back to the trustee, whomever they are, of this bankruptcy, so it can be properly divided in the estate of what's left over. Now, that's what I think integrity should demand. Let's see who ponies up and does that. Sorry for that.
Absolutely.
David,
Go
I'm
ahead,
just-
Scott.
I'm just wondering if Sam and Carolyn have a crisis of conscience and they you know off themselves or something.
Well, I don't necessarily think they'll off themselves. Like, I mean, a lot of people are thinking, hey, yeah,
in an Arkansas kind of way, you know.
Well, yeah. Because the reality is, I mean, look, they're trying to get to Dubai. Now that's conjecture right now, but I mean, a lot of people have, you know, formulated this idea, you know, where SBF's plane was going to Argentina and on and on and on. But the reality is this: if I were these two folks, I would be looking over my shoulder constantly, because you're not just talking about the governmental authorities that might want accountability, maybe, perhaps, but let's say they don't get justice there. You think of all of the people and families out there that invested millions of dollars in this space. I mean, it is a scary proposition. I mean, there are a lot of people that got burned and burned badly. And some of these people are probably going to be wanting some pounds of flesh. Now, that's just the way I think about it. I had nothing invested in FTX, but I mean, just looking at it, you know, I don't think it takes too much A plus B plus C to kind of get to those conclusions that, man, you might have really robbed some of the wrong people in life. I don't know, but I'd be kind of nervous if it was me.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that, I mean, I'm just looking at these characters. There's gonna remember the movie The Revenge of the Nerds. I think it's going to be revenge to the nerd. I mean,
yeah, possibly, yeah.
And you know, something else I want to bring up. So, you know, then you have, you know, people like Bono and Pink Floyd and these bands going over there, so that then brings the people like, oh, it's like a stamp of approval to go ahead and send money, right? I mean, is that kind of what we're seeing?
Well, I mean, you know, I think it's you know, when you bring on celebrities, let's be honest. Okay, so there's something called the Wall Street cheat sheet. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, but it's the Wall Street cheat sheet, and what it's talking about is the psychology of a market, right? And so when things are really booming and it's great, you've got all kinds of celebrities, and let's be honest, these guys are getting, you know, honorariums or some sort of contractual payments to go out there and say, hey, yeah, you know, for that kind of money, it seems like it's okay. Maybe it's not the thing I would do, but what they'll do, hey, look, you're going to pay me $1 million to show up and do a gig for you. Fine, I'll do it. You can use my name for that. Hey, that's what a band does, right? They're there to make money. They're there to, you know, promote brands or whatever. I mean, that's just how it goes. And that's what happens when it's really up here. When it's way down here, that's when you get all the Jim Cramers coming on there. Oh my gosh, don't do anything. Meanwhile, he's the guy telling you at the top, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then when it all fires apart, he's the first guy crying into his sleeve about how bad and sorry I am that you know, come on, it's such disingenuous baloney. But you know, as to the celebrity types, you know, the Shaquille O'Neals and the Tom Brady's and all that, those guys were paid to go out there and advertise. I think that is the extent of their liability. I don't think suing them is going to get anybody anywhere because they were just doing a job, right? You know, they're a celebrity. They go on there. Actors, how many actors go on there and say, oh yeah, the best toothpaste since whatever, you know, and probably they don't even use it, you know? It's kind of a deal like that. But these individuals, the Gary Genslers of the world, and people that should be in the know, and don't tell me that he did not have the intelligence. I'm not talking mental intelligence. I'm talking intelligence gathering information before his desk to know that this thing was ready to go down. When a corporation like this size is going to send reverberations through the entire world global economy, which it certainly has, right? When you see that, don't think that there weren't shockwaves, little shockwaves and little tremors months and months ago indicating, hey, we have a solvency issue here, right? Because being bankrupt is one thing. Being insolvent is something other. There's lots of organizations out there that are insolvent right now that haven't even come close to filing for any kind of Chapter 11, Chapter 7, or whatever, right? Solvency, basically, brief definition of solvency, all it means is you can't pay your liabilities when they become due. And if you can't do that with your own money, you don't have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. You don't have to play the shell game like these guys were doing, right? Because how this whole network worked was this. As long as they could keep the withdraw pace, right? So people would go in and use the exchange and withdraw their digital assets to their cold storage, as long as you could keep that going, and the withdrawals were at a nominal amount daily, and you could just, you know, move the shells around, everything was a-okay. The moment that there was a run on the FTX exchange, we found out really how liquid they really were, and the whole house of cards came crashing down.
Wow.
And that's what really went on here. And it's because of a relationship dispute between CZ and SBF. And SBF was in the backgrounds doing a lot of damage to a lot of other ecosystems. Apparently, that's what's being reported. And I think he, you know, stepped on some toes, and they just decided to step back. And as a result, the whole house of cards came crashing down. Now, this whole network, I don't think they were expecting that. They would have ran this a lot longer than what they did. And in a way, it's a good thing that it's collapsed the way it is. But I don't get this whole narrative of them coming out there telling us, well, that's why, you know, this is the Wild West, and we need the Lone Ranger to ride in here and slap down some serious regulations so that, you know, you guys need to deal with brokers, and you have to have us custody your assets because you can't be trusted to custody them themselves. And you're making very poor decisions with other people. And that's this whole accredited investor thing. Now, if you don't know, an accredited investor means somebody who has $1 million liquid, who outside of the residential property, they can invest in things that the rest of us can't, right? They can invest in private equity. They can take on risky investments. Why? Because we're too naive and too foolish to do that. But there you got Gary Gensler and his SEC. Do you know what they want to do? They want to raise that bar from 1 million to 10 million. So you're telling me that a person that has $9.5 million in liquid assets isn't savvy enough to know what a good investment is, what a bad investment is? We need the SEC to kind of parent us in that regard so that they can control it. Look, guys, this whole thing, as far as I can tell, was strategic from day one. And it was with the intent of doing the damage that it has done and getting people to lose confidence in dealing with the network and the systems that are in place right now, so that these big boys can come in there and rescue today and try to look like the big heroes. That's how I feel about it.
What do you think? With the mud on Gary Gensler at the moment, don't you think his tenure will be abbreviated rather quickly now? Or
well, I think that he's I mean, the guy's a survivor. Let's be honest. I mean, the guy has survived a lot. Look at what happened when he was the chair of the FTC or the CFTC. I mean, he had a big debacle there, and he kind of, you know, went underwater, and then decided when it was time to come up for air, you know, and it was when all the fit that hit the shan was all dissipated. Then he comes back up for air. Well, that's the kind of, because remember, he reclused himself in that situation. I mean, we might see a similar circumstance in this, but this guy, yeah, it's a little bit higher and whatever. He may be out of the SEC, but don't kid yourself. He's not out of the game. Not at all.
He might be gone.
Well, he might be gone out of the FTC, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to take Janet Yellen's job, or at least gunning for it anyway. So we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Dave, quick question. What's the CZ stand for? I didn't see that on the map.
That's CZ's CZ is the initials for the CEO of Binance.
Okay, thank you for
CZ.
clearing that up.
Yeah, CZ. I think it's
our listeners
Shangping Zhao.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shangping Zhao or something like that. And CZ are just his his initials.
He's a Spanish fellow.
No. No, actually he's not. But
Siska Zabrovka, yeah.
But I mean, look, the guy developed and this whole liquidity thing, I want to, you got these guys saying, oh, well, all of these crypto exchanges, they don't have, I'm telling you what, the same fingers that are pointing at these exchanges should be pointing at every single major bank in North America and perhaps the world. Why? Because of fractional reserve banking. If you think of let's just imagine all of Wells Fargo's, or even 30% of Wells Fargo's clients decide, hey, I want to take my money out of Wells Fargo and I want to move it over here. I guarantee you within about 15 seconds, your withdrawals will be shut down immediately. The bank could not take that. Why? Because of fractional reserve banking. For every dollar that you put in, they can literally to 100% lend that out at fractional rates. Now, to anybody else, that would look like a Ponzi scheme. So the reality is, when you say, oh, well, these exchanges don't have all this liquidity. Well, the money is moving constantly. And your bank, my bank, they do the very same thing all the time. They take your money on deposit and they lend it out at exorbitant rates, and they pay you almost next to nothing in order to do that. Decentralized finance gets rid of the middleman, the bank, and you're the lender, and you're the one that's actually getting the majority of that interest paid on that money. And that's the benefit of decentralized finance. But hey, that, of course they're gunning for that, but just want to say that.
Well, hasn't fractional reserve lending always been a Ponzi scheme? It's just been a sanctioned scheme.
Yeah, I mean, it's sanctioned by the central bank. Let's be honest. The Federal Reserve is made up of all these various banks, right? These member banks, Wells Fargo being one and all the rest. But needless to say, the Federal Reserve of the United States, the issuer of the currency, is not even a branch of the federal government of the United States.
Exactly. Thank you.
And so when you look at it and by the way, under law, they are unauditable. And they say, well, it's national security. Why? Because it's a fiat currency system that is based on the confidence that people have in the issuers of the currency. That is it. Nothing else backs it. There's no real world assets that back it. And I'll tell you what, the day that you can prevent the Federal Reserve from issuing one more dollar of debt is when the day the Federal Reserve literally implodes and collapses. Because the whole idea of this economy is a debt-based economy. And if you want to know what the beating heart of our economy is, it is the debt market. It is not the stock markets. It's not commodity markets. It is certainly not digital asset space. It is the debt market. And what you'll see is, as that 10-year yield climbs, the central banks freak out. And what do? They go in there and they buy that debt. Why? Because they want cash flowing into risk on assets. Because when cash flows into all the debt market and you see that 10-year yield climb up like that, what's happening to all these markets over here? Well, the cash is vacating and they're collapsing. They're literally getting crushed. And this whole game is eventually going to come to a very quick and cataclysmic end. It is going to happen as sure as you're sitting there watching this program and eating, drinking, and breathing. You are going to watch right before your very eyes this entire debt system completely come to an absolute crash. And what's being developed in its place right now is the whole infrastructure for a new financial system that is literally going to take place, and it's going to feel like it's overnight, but it's not overnight. They have been working on the infrastructure of this since around 2013, 2015. It took a big launch. and you're watching the messaging standards of the ISO 222 coming out there. And right now you're watching countries around the world implement that. And you've got some major players that are involved in that. One thing I want to point out that is very interesting about that whole who's all invested, or FTX and SBF were invested in. One company they weren't invested in is a company called Ripple. Now, if you've never heard of Ripple, Ripple is a $15 billion unicorn. Now, a unicorn is designated as a corporation that is not traded on any exchange. And yet the valuation of this corporation is $15 billion. And who does the SEC decide to take a lawsuit to? Ripple. But if you take a look and you do your due diligence and you investigate Ripple and you find out what it's doing, Ripple is working with the Digital Pound Foundation, working with the US Digital Dollar Foundation. They have close ties with the IMF and the European Central Bank and central banks around the globe. Look, they just opened up in Ireland, applied for a license so they can have access to the whole EU. They've made major arrangements in Africa. The Commonwealth Bank of Australia, one of the largest, if not the largest bank in Australia, has literally come out. Now, they were a Ripple partner before, but they've literally come out and said that they are going to allow transactions to take place for on-demand liquidity utilizing a native asset of Ripple and the XRP ledger, and that is XRP. And it has the potential to truly revolutionize our economic system. And I'm telling you, we're moving towards it with warp speed. I have absolutely zero doubt. And look, I'm somebody that comes from the old system, in the sense that I was an investigator for almost 25 years for the tax department in Canada, and I have a very analytical way of looking at things. I'm not just going to swallow any kind of thing that comes down the line. And what I've been able to discover in this ecosystem is truly mesmerizing. And I cannot underemphasize or overemphasize what fundamental transition we're moving into when we're talking about these central bank digital currencies and digital assets and what it's going to go towards, because you're talking about the tokenization of absolutely everything. Listen, the stock market right now, all stock markets globally tally up to about $89.2 trillion. Out of that, the New York Stock Exchange is about 31% of that, so about 28.5 trillion, somewhere in that neighborhood. And you're talking about the tokenization of every asset in there. Right now, the entire digital asset space is valued at just under 1 trillion. What do you think would happen when 89 trillion of value gets added to that? Talking about a 10x, 100x, maybe even 1,000 times that value or more. And think of this, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, which daily processes about $1 trillion worth of trades that go through. Every trade that goes through any of these exchanges goes through the Depository Trust and Clearing Corp, and they process trillions of dollars of value daily. Look this up. Fact check me on this. I pray that you do, for your own sake, for your children's sake, and good Lord, for your grandchildren's sake, do it. Because I'll tell you what, your eyes are going to be so wide open, you're going to be mesmerized. When you think of this, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation just signed on to R3 Corda to initialize a blockchain-based system that is going to utilize a digital asset for instant settlement called XDC. It will blow your mind. I gotta stop, or I'm gonna just keep on going.
Shane, you wanna jump in here on any?
Well, I guess. I guess if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what is. But I totally agree with you on the XRP and also its other token on the Stellar network, XLM.
Yes, XLM as well.
I mean, as we work with through the collective and the initial spreadsheets issued by individual Whiplash 347, securing a number of those assets before they opened at sub pennies on the dollar for 40 billion tokens in an asset. For example, I mean, Ford Motor Company, a name that everybody knows on the traditional stock market, when I took the time to do my due diligence and look, it was around $12.50, $13 per share, right? For one XLM, which at the time was around 13, 14 cents, I got 40 billion units in Ford Motor Company. So when that shift out from the traditional to the digital exchange occurs, hey, I'll take 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, about what most shareholders at the top end are going to get out of FTX, maybe, if they're lucky,
Yeah.
in a class action.
Yeah, Shane, can you just,
You know, it's,
I was going to say, just introduce the folks, just a elevator pitch of what the collective is for people that may not be familiar. Just please go ahead.
okay, well, I guess I'll quickly jump to my Telegram. You guys can see that?
Yep.
You can see my Telegram window there. All right, so if I jump into, we've created a lobby, if you like, in Lobster that goes through the introduction of what the collective is all about. All right, as far as Telegram goes, we're a safe space for like-minded individuals to come in who are interested in being involved in the digital asset space, and that's not the crypto space, because the two are completely different. Crypto space, we're talking about tokens and supposed stored value. I'll pause on that one. Supposed stored value in the case of FTX. Supposedly there was billions there, where you can exchange your values in XRP or XLM and purchase or invest in a number of the assets that have been tokenized out of Trump's executive orders, because we all know that, or those of us in the know, and if you don't know, you can learn through the interface that we've got here on Telegram what those executive orders are and how they relate. But it's a safe space to gain information on that, become involved via the Stellar network, predominantly with Lobster as the main interface, because it's easier to learn, it's easier to navigate, and it works. Securing percentages of those assets on the Stellar blockchain, not stored in Lobster. So it's not a hot wallet like FTX was. None of the assets that you secure stay in Lobster. So we step people through the Bonfire Guy videos 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they get an understanding of the plan. They then get an overview to the Great Awakening. They then through level playing fields 1 and 2, and number 3. So they build their knowledge in how all this has come about, a percentage of it. Then entering Lobster, we've got overview videos to what the collective is all about, what the new financial system is all about, overview to the quantum financial system, which is the underlying network that the blockchain sits on, that then the exchanges on the different networks sit on. Because sure, there's the ETH network on there as well, but is it as secure as Stellar? And I'll always throw the comment out there. I challenge anybody globally and galactically to come back with proof that their Stellar account has been hacked. Everybody I've spoken to and dealt with through the collective that has had, my tokens have been taken, my tokens have been taken. Well, did you answer a DM and somebody told you to go out of the room and onto another exchange to secure your assets? Your assets are as secure as the blockchain because they're on the blockchain. So step everybody through that, how to two-factor authenticate, lock down their Lobster account, and bit more security information before you actually get a link to jumping into the main Telegram or the main Lobster chat within Telegram. And once you're in that room, you're not going to get the DMs, because as I was saying to you guys earlier, our main Telegram ability here is where you get your DMs. Once you actually jump into your private folders, that doesn't become an issue anymore. So we're very much an education base for bringing people into the quantum financial system, specifically on the Stellar network using Lobster. You do have SDEX Explorer. You do have Stellar Explorer as well to be able to review. We've got access to a multitude of videos and informational capability to be able to support people who want to get involved.
And then you also, thank you for that. And you also have a YouTube channel under the collective, and that's where some tutorials are as well.
Correct, correct. I'll quickly jump to that. That's a good segue. Thank you very much. And of course, top of my screen is cut off there. And good old YouTube. Probably going to be easy to go there because I don't think the
there it is. There it is. We'll put
met
the link
so-
below as well.
Yeah, we can provide the link.
Yeah, we'll provide. I just wanted people to see the actual link so that they know more about, you know, the group and where to find it, because some people are on YouTube and they can start there, and then they may not be in Telegram, and so they might, you know, navigate this first just so they know where to look. So anyway, so Scott, where did we want to take this next? We were on that page.
Queued up. There's some, these texts are just unbelievable.
Please.
They're
yes.
We want to.
So this is for those people who read through earlier, but this is the level of intellect of the individual, you know, garnering people's billions of dollars. So what's next? What's your plan? Is a question of SBF. I've got 2 weeks to raise 8 billion. That's basically all that matters for the rest of my life. Well, I really hope the depositors get their money back, but I got to say, I have no idea how anyone could possibly pull that off from that starting point. Sorry. Well, a month ago, I was one of the world's greatest fundraisers. Now I'm the fallen wreckage of one. But there's one thing about being fallen, hypothesizing here. There are people who know what it's like and who want to do something for someone else that nobody did for themselves. Everybody was so worried and concerned about dumb shit, we definitely wouldn't do that, and that made no sense. But it's not about whether you are lending out customer funds. Seems like such an obvious thing for them to worry about. Yeah, but it's complicated. And then the ABCD, it wasn't quite lending them out. It was messier and more organic than that. Each step was in isolation, rational, and reasonable. And then when I finally added it up last week, it wasn't.
Wow.
So he waits until the house of cards falls, then tries to put it all back together and work out what the hell. He goes on to say, most exchanges did some variant on what we did, just not as big and without the run on the bank, at least recently, and more intentionally. Everyone wants to be clever, and the clever thing to do is some complicated 3D chess involving customer orders or data or something like that, which makes no actual sense.
Wow.
I mean, the only logical conclusion is it made sense to them to rip everybody off. I mean, we're sitting on this mountain of money. Let's pile it up and get out of here quick. That makes sense.
It. That's it.
That's what
So
it seems like, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a multitude of analyses over it, you know, and their ability to either put, you know, documentation together or not. You know, we can accept both fiat and crypto and can pay interest denominated in either. We can take on another 500 million, yeah, sure, in capital and still achieve returns that beat traditional and crypto markets. For investors with specific risk profiles, we're happy to discuss custom packages. I'm sure you are. For investments of 50 mil or more, we're willing to discuss higher rates of return. So it's just a guesstimation sliding scale of how much you're prepared to give us that we'll tell you we'll give you back and then run for the hills with your bags of money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. It's just crazy.
Just you guys, we're about 5 minutes away from the hour, and we do want to keep.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to have a little bit of a cliffhanger. We're definitely going to have you guys back.
Well, before we take off, I thought it would
Please.
be great to show you guys something. I don't know if I have the ability here to share my screen.
Yeah, I can
but,
stop share. There you go. All yours.
What I'm gonna do here is show you something that's truly mind-boggling. Let me just take a look here if I can pull this up. So now I had mentioned there about XRP. Now XRP was not caught up with Ripple in this whole FTX debacle. It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. But what I want to show you here is something that's truly mind-blowing, just for your audience to see it. So do you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yep, we've got
Okay,
you got the
so we're
video
at
clip
the-
up, yeah?
Oh, I do. Is that what's what's showing, or is no, that's not what I wanted to show. Actually, I'm gonna stop sharing that, and I'm gonna actually share something else. I do want to share that in a second, but what I want to do is I'll go in here. Oh, what's going on? Okay, let's maximize this and let's start this. And I'm going to share this right here. This is what I want to share. This is what's mind blowing. So back in now, do you see what I'm seeing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
XRP
so,
on
yeah,
CoinMarketCap, yeah.
January 4th of 2017. XRP opened at 0.006 and the high of it was 0.006 over here. Now it closed at 0.00657 on January 4th of 2017. So that's like a sliver over half a cent, right? Take a look at this. January 4th of 2018, XRP opened at $3.12, had a high of $3.84 and closed at $3.20. So in 1 year, to the day, if you had have invested in XRP on January 4th of 2017 and invested $6,000, 1 year later to the day, you would have netted yourself $3.84 million. But I want to show you something that is really mind-numbing when you think about how interconnected Ripple is. So I'm going to stop this share, and I am going to open up another share because I think this is really going to just blow your audience's mind. So I'm going to see
if they're not crying already.
Yeah, we're going to watch this. See if this max. Are you hearing it?
No, did you share with audio?
Okay.
Just
let
stop
me
the share.
Let me do this again, and
Yep.
I'm gonna, so that you guys can hear it, I have to share my sound. How about that?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go back here when I do the share. I'm gonna share this.
Yeah, it's
Share.
a headphone thing.
I'm gonna now tell me if you can hear it once I start playing it here.
Why do I hold XRP?
Yeah.
Because Ripple's the chosen one to lead the new global digital payment system, and they use XRP. In 2013, the Federal Reserve began looking for faster payments options. 2 years later, an action plan was born and a federal payments task force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank and Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and the governments of 32 countries, put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitizing Payments. 1 year later, the Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company on their website, Ripple. Today, Better Than Cash Alliance and all other UN initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. You can see the SDGs logo on Bill Gates' lapel, world-leading companies, the Better Than Cash Alliance website, and on the UN's official exchange, Exchange. What crypto is Exchange officially utilizing for their carbon credit solution? XRP. The world will move to a new international standard for exchanging electronic messages between financial institutions by 2025 called ISO 20022. Who was the first ISO 20022 member focused on distributed ledger technology? Ripple. Who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, American Express, PNC, Santander, SBI, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia, the largest banks in Japan, Canada, Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America? Ripple. Who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve? Ripple. A former employee overseeing the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock's digital asset division? Ripple. Leading Australia's CBDC effort? Ripple. Who hired a former Treasury of the United States? Ripple. 2 former Federal Reserve attorneys to their board? Ripple. 2 former Clinton and Obama advisors? Former Minister of Defense and Economics of Germany? Former business director at Swift? Former Swift board member? Former CFO of PayPal? Former head of the DTCC? Former chief business officer at Uber? Former VP of Amazon? co-sign and former SEC chair on their legal team, Ripple, who's a member of the Digital Pound Foundation, Digital Dollar Project, Digital Euro Association, Mojaloop, IMF's high-level advisory board on fintech, Hyperledger Blockchain Consortium, Open Payments Coalition, Faster Payments Council, Global Payments Steering Group, Cross-Border Working Group, International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, Crypto Climate Accord, University Blockchain Initiative, World Wide Web Consortium, and a featured partner of the World Economic Forum with 3 members of their team directly listed on the WF website, Ripple. Now, does Ripple and XRP sound like they're going to disappear, or do they sound like they're part of a much bigger plan? You decide.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Isn't that amazing? Now, think of this. Do you have like a $20 bill here, you guys? Do you have a 20, a 50, a 100 in your pocket right now? Like if you did, drag it out. I want you to take a look at who signed that on behalf of the Treasury of the United States. It was
Australian. Sorry, it's worthless.
Yeah. If you do, I just want you to do that because this is amazing.
It's got to be a 20.
Well, it could be a 20, a 50, or whatever. It can be whatever currency you have there.
Hey, guess what, guys?
What's that? Hey, there's a 20. Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay. So let's just take a look here and see if I can't show you something here. There we go.
Secretary of the Treasury.
Secretary of the Treasury. Just take a look at who that is. That was Rosie Rios. Rosie Rios leaves the Secretary of the Treasury to join Ripple. Now you're talking about someone who's is the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, leaving a position to join Ripple on their executive board and literally has her signature on our money. You're telling me that Ripple is going down, and no offense to you, Shane, but going under, going down under.
Well, they're down under already.
Yeah, they're down under already. That's right. And they're working with the Australian government and the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. You cannot underestimate this news. It is absolutely phenomenal. And when you take a look at Ripple and you see what infrastructure they're building around the globe to literally replace this whole system that we have been in bondage to for however long, it is truly mesmerizing. And I genuinely believe that it is going to transform ordinary people into literally some of the most wealthiest people in the world. But most are going to miss it primarily because, number one, they don't know. And number two, the establishment, the Jim
doesn't want them to know.
And the media, they are trying to terrify people in doing this. And look, I'm just going to go over here because, hey, I got to get a shameless plug in here.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
So I just,
and I guess, guys, for your audience, Scott, and I hate that you're gonna have to edit this bit out.
Yeah, maybe. So
for your
anyhow,
and just to confirm for your audience, Scott and Joe, the most important thing, the biggest lesson, I'm sure Dave will support me on this, whether it's Ripple or whether it's XRP, whether it's Lumens, is the difference between the Bitcoin and Ethereum and crap-based cryptocurrency market has nothing to do with the Stellar network and the blockchain and Ripple, XRP, and the Stellar-based assets.
In fact,
digital asset.
Yeah, Stellar and
solution.
Ripple are not even blockchains. They are distributed ledger technologies, but they work off of a different type of algorithm. It's a consensus-based algorithm using mathematical, like I think it's Byzantine fault tolerances and things like that. But it is not blockchain, which is what you're looking at when you're looking at Bitcoin and different other things like that. It is not that. And it can transact value and information at lightning fast speeds, like unbelievable. You're talking settlement almost instantaneously. Now listen to this. The XRP ledger since 2013 has closed 72 million ledgers without one mistake ever. Not one ever in its entire history. That is almost phenomenal and in fact unheard of in this entire digital asset space. Not one mistake. 72 million, and since 2013. That is truly mesmerizing. Now, hey, so what I was going to do here, I need to share my screen over here. If this is okay. This is the channel that I run, and I talk about XRP a lot, and I go into some deep detail. Now, look, a lot of these thumbnails, hey, they may look cartoony, but I'll tell you what, you get into the information of what they supply, and I'm just giving you my personal opinion. Of course, it's not financial advice, but I bring out some real heavy duty facts that you can fact check. In fact, I encourage people to go out there and do their own research and fact check what I'm bringing out and saying, because it's based on real world information. And a lot of times people will come out and they'll say, hey, it can't reach those levels due to this, that, or whatever. And what they're not realizing there, and I'm going to see if I can pull this one up, is this right here. They're not talking about, you got to watch this video, even if you watch it for yourself, Scott and Joe. Watch it, because what we talk about there is the world money supply. And most people don't even understand what the world money supply is and how much money there truly is in the world and how it actually flows, what makes it work and why, and how fundamental that's going to be going forward. So it's something that I would encourage folks to watch, is just that one right there. If they don't watch any others, watch.
Yeah.
And it's 21 minutes and 21 seconds. And I do want to say, it is interesting in that video that you played that over a handful of the people that are in there may not be around to enjoy the XRP, because they've been up to some various activities. That's going to be really interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, even if Ripple was to totally disappear, the XRP ledger and XRP is not. It's a separate, absolutely separate thing. So, you know, I wanted to bring that out because a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty and doubt is being fed to this marketplace to cause people to really, you know, kind of like be timid about this space. But in reality, and all of the big players know this digital asset space is going to be what all value is transacted on within the next 5 to 10 years. All value, your healthcare, your educational information, literally how your credit score, how you transact with merchants, everything that you do is going to be governed by this space. And of course, the big battle there is our digital identity going to be some way tied to a social credit system whereby a lot of these repressive governments and these central banks are able to more or less manipulate our behavior by threatening our livelihoods? Now, that's the big question. And this is the real war that we're facing now. I don't think it's just a tangible war in the sense like just in this sphere. I actually believe, man, this goes way deeper than that. We're talking about a spiritual war that's probably been going on for thousands of years, you know, and it can kind of get a little freaky, but I do believe that what we're witnessing here is truly a biblical unfolding of events that have been, you know, really foretold long ago. The scripture makes it clear. And this, a lot of Christians will know this. So when I say this, it might freak some people out that don't, but a lot of people who are true, you know, they do their Bible studies and this and that, they will have heard this. Bible says that our wrestle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and rulers of darkness in the heavenly realms. And that's what we're doing. And it encourages us, don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That's what we need to do. And that's what Shane's doing. That's what you guys are doing. We're shining the light on what we know to be wrong. And look, we're not going to be overcome by evil, but the motivation, the goal is to really overcome evil with good.